Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me is Omar Pozos, my co-host and husband. How are you doing, Omar? How are you really? Do not hold back now.
Today I'm feeling kind of crappy, to be honest with you. So we did, your dad and I, and for the listeners, we did MURPH on Memorial Day weekend, which is it's a CrossFit style workout, but it's meant to honor some of the veterans. Michael Murphy, one of them. But anyways, it's a mile run. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 air squats, 300 push-ups.
Opposite,
No, sorry.
200 push-ups,
100
300
pull-ups,
air squats.
Yes, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and it just destroyed my body. I didn't even do it, to be totally honest, completely. I did like 3/4 of it. So today it's day 3 of that, and I've got some of that like delayed muscle soreness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, I think, fighting what I think might be a sinus situation. So I'm definitely feeling my age these days.
Man, 33 really hitting you hard.
I know.
That's just advanced age really coming into play.
All right. But yeah, other than that, I'm hanging in there. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
We had a great weekend celebrating you, getting to do a little staycation at a nice hotel.
We did. What was the favorite part of your weekend?
Just chilling by the pool and just relaxing.
Yeah.
Like I love to sit by the pool, read a good book, and just just soak up the sun, relax. It's my fave.
Yeah. And then we went, so Vanessa and I did a bit of a staycation Friday, Saturday, came back Sunday, and then we went boating on Monday, ended up getting stranded out in the water because of a dead battery. So it was a very eventful weekend.
Very, very adventurous of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for today's episode, so this is something that's been on my mind recently. I actually, a couple weeks ago, threw it out to the people. I asked on social media, on my Instagram stories, I was like, you know what, guys, I'm just going to completely admit here, skincare has not been my forte in my life. And part of that being that I was very, very fortunate and lucky that I was not like a teenager who had really bad acne. I had some breakouts here and there, but I never really had bad skin issues to where I had to do anything too extreme for my skin. For me, it really wasn't until I actually came off of birth control, and this was early 20s, and my hormones just kind of went through some craziness. I was really quickly, I think, heading just towards like post-birth control syndrome. And with my hormones being completely out of balance and looking back, probably a lot of other things at play, some things we're going to talk about in this episode, I just suddenly started having these massive, horrible breakouts. And do you actually remember, so this was like in our first year of dating, do you remember that time? It was like that October when I went to Iceland with my sisters. We did a little international trip. And so I was gone for about 2 weeks because we did international. And then I went home to spend some time with my family. And then I was coming back to Atlanta with you. And I remember when I had like touched down in Atlanta on the airplane, I had been having these like massive breakouts across like my chin and jawline. And for whatever reason, I guess it was like the air pressure change, like a couple of them just like exploded basically, and I just had like this disgusting mess basically on my face, and I was so embarrassed because we had not been dating that long. And you picked me up, and I think I had like beforehand like cleaned up enough in the bathroom, but I just remember being like, oh, this is so embarrassing, this is so terrible. And this memory just stands out for me because I actually have a picture of it. Was like maybe the next day or a couple days later, we went on a hike because this was, early dating times when we like pretended like we were just really cool, fun, adventurous people.
Let's do cool stuff on the weekend. Would do
stuff like wake up super early and go hiking. And so we went on this hike, and we actually like took a selfie in the sunrise. And like you can see in the selfie, like I definitely had some stuff going on around my chin, and it was better at this point because I think it was a few days later. But like that picture specifically is really memorable for me because, shout out to you, but like you always made me feel very comfortable with myself and, all the different phases of my journey where I've been at much higher weights. I've had different shapes and sizes of my body. I've had skin issues, all the things. Like you still always made me feel like I was beautiful and all the things. So.
Well, I'll be very honest. I don't remember it, but I do remember the post, and you've shared it a couple times. So I have heard that story, and I'm like, God, I'm such a great guy. I really am.
Yeah.
No, but actually, funny story, and you know this a little bit about this, but I've had like a history of bad acne in my family. Like my mom had really bad acne. I had bad acne to the point where like I started taking like Accutane when I was like 15 or 16, and it just wouldn't stop. It wouldn't cease. And then I don't know what happened, and I'm excited to kind of hear some of the things that you're going to talk about. But I think I just got a little bit older, my body changed, and then also sort of just kind of went away. But what I have noticed and what I have really seen is that ever since you and I really started focusing on working out and dialing in nutrition and eating much better, those symptoms have really subsided. Like, it's been, knock on wood, like it's really been a long time that I've had like
Your
a really
skin's been
bad
looking great,
pimple.
actually.
So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah,
well,
you're
now that I'm 33, my joint pains might be there, my sinus infection might be there, but yeah, no, the skin aspect of it has been, I think, for the most
you're
part,
aging
really
in
well.
reverse.
I know. Exactly.
I'm giving you too many compliments today. But yeah, so like with acne, whether it's dull skin, like whatever you may be dealing with or may have dealt with in the past, oftentimes like a big issue, I've been guilty of making, and many people have been guilty of making, is we see acne, we see breakouts, we see, skin that we don't love, and we start to try and treat the skin. We try to fix the acne, we try to fix the breakouts, we try and fix the skin. But the reality is, like in the functional health world, we don't look at something like acne or dull skin, breakouts. We don't look at that as the problem. We see that as a symptom of a deeper problem, of something going on internally, of something being imbalanced internally. And so it's a symptom. Just like we talk about often weight being a symptom of something. And it's not that we need to tackle the weight and try and force our body to lose weight. We need to figure out what is causing your body to want to hold on to weight and causing your body to struggle to lose weight and fix the root issue so that weight loss becomes easy. Same thing with our skin. And I see this time and time again with clients to where we'll have clients who they may mention coming in of like, struggled with acne and my skin, different things. It's typically not like a main thing they come to us of like, this is the reason I'm coming to you. But I can tell you time and time again, it is this like side effect of the changes that we work on, the things that we, are healing within their body, that over time they're like, you know what, my skin, like this is the best it's ever looked. And it's crazy because I haven't done anything different with like my skincare routines. I'm not spending a bunch of money on expensive products for my skin. I'm not doing all these crazy treatments. And women, like, we are guilty of putting so much money into skincare, the treatments, the products, all the things. Yet if we took the amount of money you spend on like one skincare treatment and put that into functional health, not only would your skin improve, but everything about your body and your energy and how you feel would improve. And I wish more women realize that.
Yeah. And that stuff is expensive. Like, I know, it's not like we do a lot of that stuff, but like I've seen people that do like the facials or like the laser treatments. I'm like, they're at least $300-400 plus dollars.
Oh, more than that. A lot of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
like there's, gosh, I can't think of the name of it, but like, one of those skin treatments, it's like $1,500 a pop, I think.
Whoa. Dang.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, here really in this episode, I want to talk about, regardless of whether or not you're dealing with any skin issues, I want to talk about like, what would I look at if you came to me and said, you know what, Vanessa, I really just want to have better skin. I want to have clear skin. I want to have glowing skin. I just want to really feel good in my skin, not have to cover myself up with a bunch of makeup, not have to feel embarrassed with, cameras at me when I'm, don't have any makeup on. I want you to feel confident in your skin. And you're asking me, how can I do this? These are the things that I would dive into with you. So number one, first thing we're going to look at is your gut health. And so gut dysbiosis is a huge problem when it comes to skin. And Hippocrates has actually, really coined the term of really looking at our gut when it comes to this, because Hippocrates once said, all disease begins in the gut. And this is a huge thing that we can pull to a lot of things we're dealing with, whether it's mental health, physical health, all these aspects, but skin being a big one. And when your gut is having issues, whether it's inflamed, whether it's overrun with pathogens, it is absolutely going to show up in your skin. So some common triggers of, some breakouts or some dull skin, some different issues you might be noticing with your skin that could be coming from gut health would be leaky gut. So leaky gut, that's essentially like, imagine your gut lining. So your gut lining is permeable, it's semi-permeable, meaning that it's kind of like a fishnet stocking where it should allow it's kind of, I totally messed up my analogy. It's kind of like a classic stocking where if you put on some like regular tights, they don't look like there's holes, but if you look at them super closely, there are little holes to where if you like ran some water through it, it would go through. But if you dropped like a piece of bread on that stocking, it's not going to fall through.
Okay.
However, on the flip side, leaky gut is more of like a fishnet stocking where you have these like big holes to where if you drop some bread, some of the crumbs of the bread is going to fall through when it's not supposed to. So that's kind of what happens when we have leaky gut. Little food particles, little things that are not supposed to be slipping through your gut lining are starting to slip through the lining because it's looking more like a fishnet stocking than a regular stocking, regular tights. I realize from the confusion look on your face that you probably are like, I have never really looked that closely at a pair of tights before.
No. It makes sense. I know. I have an idea of what you mean.
Well, so, that's a big part of like, if we're dealing with leaky gut, we're definitely going to have some inflammation in the skin. And that could very much turn into some breakouts on your face that could just look like your skin not being the best at this point in time. Something I actually growing up, so like I said, I never really had terrible acne. I didn't have like that hormonal acne growing up, but something I did deal with was, issues of like the skin on my arms. I was always
really?
actually really embarrassed of like wearing sleeveless shirts and things for a while growing up because my arm were just kind of like patchy looking. We're kind of rough, just some different things going on there. And that's something that I don't really think about until I reflect on things like these of like, wow, I have not dealt like that in many years now. But some other things that could be causing your skin to be off due to your gut. So you could have some overgrowth of bacteria, candida being a big one. We'll often see a lot of skin issues if someone's dealing with candida, but really any major overgrowth, you're going to notice that for sure. Constipation. So even if you're not like dealing with some severe gut dysbiosis, if you are someone who is constipated, you're not going to the bathroom every single day, you're not feeling like you're fully emptying out, you are very likely then recycling toxins, recycling estrogen back into the body. Because if we're not getting it out through your stool, which is your body's way of purging that out, then what's going to happen? It's sitting in your intestines and it's going to start to reabsorb back into your body and just continue to actually create this buildup until it can get released somewhere. And how is that going to get released? Probably through your skin, all those toxins, and ending up with some poor skin at that point. Food sensitivities could be an issue. So, that really can come back to gut health as well, because oftentimes if we're dealing with sensitivities to things like gluten and dairy or eggs, things like that, typically that's actually a sign of something going on with our gut as well. But that could, especially like dairy is a big one, can often lead to breakouts. So that can be something to look into. But what I would do here with somebody who I'm suspecting our skin issues might be coming from gut health, we would probably dive into a GI map. That's a really comprehensive stool test, so we can see what specifically is going on in your GI tract. That way we can take a very targeted approach. I like to use a 5R gut protocol with our clients, but we've done episodes on the 5R gut protocol before, so you can refer back to that. But we got to take a super targeted approach and really make sure that we are addressing your specific issues with food and supplements the right way. And then, big thing here, really would like to see you come off of any medications that are not necessary. Oftentimes the medications we're taking are actually making our gut health worse and making things worse. So huge example here, you mentioned growing up, you took Accutane. Mm-hmm. This is such a common mistake I see where oftentimes this is the problem. If we're targeting our skin, trying to clear our skin issues by attacking specifically of looking at how can we make the skin look better, we go to something like Accutane. It's a quick fix. Accutane is going to make your skin much worse in the long run.
It was so dry. Mine was.
Well, what it's going to do is completely destroy your gut. And now you're going to end up with all these issues due to your gut being off. So it's super, super common. Those who did Accutane when they were younger typically have gut issues in adulthood. Very, very common. Now, the second thing I would dive into, we've already kind of touched on this, we've alluded to it, but hormonal imbalances. Now, this is one that people are typically familiar with because, as we mentioned, how many people going in their teen years dealt with hormonal acne? Why is that? Because as we're getting into our teenage years, that's when our hormones are really kind of starting to get a little bit crazy, right?
A little crazy.
Get a little crazy. And especially in women, this is super, super common to see hormonal acne as a really common root cause of acne. So if you look at things like the androgens, so like testosterone, for example, that's an androgen. If they are just really too powerful in the body. If your testosterone is converting into too much DHT, you are absolutely going to be dealing with a lot of breakouts.
What
Very,
does
very
DHT
common.
mean?
What does it stand for? It's like dihydro something testosterone.
Dihydrotestosterone.
Oh, there we go. I thought there was like another syllable in there.
It contributes to the development of sexual structures and characteristics in males and females.
Yep, it's one of the androgens. So essentially, you are very likely to be dealing with that. So super common as well for those with PCOS, which we'll often see being very androgen dominant. So that's where oftentimes those with PCOS will also have some hormonal acne. But the important thing to point out here too is just because we're talking about like, testosterone, androgens, that could be a big reason why we're dealing with acne, does not mean we want to wipe out your testosterone, ladies. Testosterone's super, super important as well. We need it for libido, energy, being able to put on, muscle and have better aesthetics, being able to lose body fat and retain muscle, look more toned. We need testosterone. So we just want to optimize how your body is using it, producing it, metabolizing it. That's what we got to be looking into. So some common patterns I'll often see with those dealing with hormonal acne, so hormonal imbalances being the root cause of our acne. We talk about high androgens. Oftentimes we'll see that most with jawline or chin acne, as well as oily skin. That's typically a sign.
I had really oily skin. Maybe that was my problem.
Yeah, very, very common for boys, teenage boys with acne is because they're having like these surges of testosterone, right? Low progesterone could also be an issue. So it could be not an androgen issue at all for you. It could be low progesterone. This was me, really bad after I came off of birth control. My progesterone was bottomed out. I was actually estrogen dominant, even though my estrogen was also super low. Like I was like postmenopausal hormone levels for a long time, couldn't get a period. It was pretty bad there for a period of time. And this was like especially PMS related breakouts were really, really nasty. This could also be insulin resistance, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but insulin then will drive androgen production and inflammation as well. And then this could also be poor detoxification of estrogen. So again, it's not just looking at the levels of these hormones, but also looking at how your body is actually metabolizing it, how your body is detoxifying it. Just like we talked about on the gut health side of things, if you are constipated, you're not clearing out estrogen effectively. Estrogen's kind of like the bottom of the chain on that hormone production there. So your body needs to get out that excess estrogen after it's been used and produced and all the things. If it's not able to do that, it's going to recirculate back in. If we're recirculating estrogen back in, that's absolutely going to fuel breakouts as well. So what I would do here, if I'm suspecting it's hormones at play, hormonal imbalances, I would ideally want to do a Dutch test because we're not just looking at levels of hormones, but we're also seeing how hormones are actually being metabolized. We can see our DHT, we can see our DHEAS, that's the storage form of our DHEA. A lot of really great things here, but if nothing else, doing a blood work panel of looking at all the hormones can be really helpful. And ultimately, we just want to make sure then that we are getting a good strategy in place to bring hormones back in balance so that we don't have to be dealing with this anymore. Then, the next thing I would probably be looking at would be blood sugar and insulin dysregulation. So we talk about this a little bit when we're just talking about generally with hormones, because insulin is a hormone. But I want to specifically talk about blood sugar and insulin because this is a sneaky one that people don't really think about and don't talk about. Oftentimes when we're talking about hormonal acne, we're often thinking of like our sex hormones. We're thinking about PMS. We're thinking about our cycle, right? Just like we talked about teenage years, those hormones coming in. But we don't think about if maybe our blood sugar and insulin is at play. So if we're having these insulin spikes, we're more likely to have higher oil production, which is more likely then to have clogged pores, which is then going to be creating more acne. So you can see this of like, think of people who, again, like they're like, oh, my skin's just oily. It's just always been oily. They're taking all these products. They're doing all these treatments. They're trying to fix it and they just never quite get better. Your body just like continues to like adjust and like dodge what you're trying to do to it, but you still keep ending up with the same result. Those people are not looking at their internal health. They're not looking at their blood sugar. They're not testing their blood sugar. They're not checking and seeing, are they eating in a way that supports balanced blood sugar? We gotta look at these things. So some additional signs that this could be what's causing your skin to not look its best is if you're having a lot of cravings, if you have a lot of energy crashes, you tend to get hangry. You can't go more than like 2-3 hours without eating, or you just kind of get irritable. If you notice specifically your acne is worse when your sugar intake is higher, that's definitely a sign. And this could also look like PCOS-like symptoms as well.
Now, here's the crazy thing, right? So if you think about it, if you don't even know that you have, for example, GI issues, but you're constipated or you have food sensitivities, right? And you're like, well, it's my gut health. But then on top of that, if you have recently come off of birth control, or maybe like stress levels are higher and your cortisol levels are higher, and on top of that, if you're not taking care of your nutrition to the point where like, you are having sugar spikes or insulin spikes, combine that plus the stress plus the GI issues, no wonder like your skin is going to be pretty crappy.
You can spend as much money as you want to spend on products, you guys, and it's not going to have the same results as actually focusing on your internal health at the end of the day. What I would do here with somebody who's showing signs of maybe it's blood sugar issue causing their skin to not look its best is ultimately what I would want to do here is make sure we are prioritizing blood sugar balance. So a big part of that is looking at how we're structuring our meals. There can be a lot of components to blood sugar balancing, but the most basic, simple thing is making sure our meals are balanced. So attacking blood sugar does not mean cut out carbs. It's a very common misconception. What we want to do is make sure that we're not eating carbs alone. We want to make sure we're getting our carbs in, but we're also having protein, fat, and fiber within every single meal as well. On higher levels, like we could get into specific strategies around this as well, but there's a lot we could do within blood sugar. The next thing that I will be looking at is inflammation and liver. So, it's very, very common to have liver detoxification issues. For myself, I think this was also a big issue because once I really pinpointed and figured out I have a sluggish liver, and I am not one of those people that can just succumb to that narrative of like, you are a human, you have a liver, your liver knows what to do. Like, yes, I am a human. Yes, my liver knows what to do. However, my liver is not functioning as optimally as it should. It needs extra support in order to continuously stay up to speed and do what it needs to do. That's why I drink dandelion tea every morning. This is why I do a lot of things to help support my liver ongoing, is for this reason. If your liver is overburdened, if your liver is overloaded, guess what's going to happen? You are not going to be able to push toxins out of your body effectively. And again, where are they going to go? They're going to get pushed out through the skin. Your skin is going to start to look crappy. Whether it's breakouts or not, you're not going to have the brightest, best skin you could have. So especially if we add in, maybe having like a higher level of exposure to toxins and just inflammatory things. This could be mold exposure. This could be, a lot of like metals making their way into your system. This could be that you just don't really have strong detox pathways. That's something we would look at on a Dutch test as well. This is where, your immune system can start to get overwhelmed. And guess what? Your skin is going to reflect that. So this is where I'm going to look at all different types of things because there's a lot of potential contributing factors. It could be looking at our detox pathway. So there could be some poor, phase 1, phase 2 liver detoxification, which again, we can dive into that on a Dutch test and specifically look at how is your phase 1? How is your phase 2? How are these looking? How is your body doing here? And if one is a little bit off, then we know specifically that's where we need to bring in, some more B vitamins. That's where we need to make sure we have enough glutathione. That's where we need to really add in some sulfur, like really specific targeted approaches based on what your body is showing because it is very individualized. This could be chronic inflammation buildup from some of those other issues we talked about. If we're having gut issues, we're going to build up inflammation over time. But it could also be a lifestyle issue. It could be that we're not sleeping well, and for that reason, we are struggling with inflammation. But this also, you guys, it could be as simple as products you are using, products you're exposed to. So maybe you're spending a lot of money on these skincare products, but they're not very friendly to your body. They are high in toxins. They are high in endocrine disruptors, xenoestrogens. These are all fancy words for saying things that are going to disrupt your hormones. Xenoestrogens is basically just a compound that mimics estrogen in the body. So you're basically giving your body this compound that is looking like estrogen, and it's going to throw your hormones off. This could also be, with some of the personal care products you're using, maybe you're like, again, you're attacking the skin when it's actually a deeper issue. So you're just making it worse because now maybe you have oily skin, but you're stripping that oil barrier. So then you're making your issues worse to try and, suppress the symptom essentially. So a lot of things we could look at when it comes to inflammation and liver detoxification, but some things I would want to do is across the board, it can really benefit you to increase your cruciferous vegetable intake. Adding some bitter greens in. Something simple you can do is starting to sleep with a castor oil pack on a couple nights a week. Maybe using it for, just an hour, a couple days a week can be helpful. Using some focused liver support supplements or products. Like I mentioned, drinking dandelion tea is typically safe for most people. So that's a good recommendation. I'm pretty comfortable with making broadly. I typically don't talk about supplements on a broad platform like this, but tea, that's a fantastic one for you, especially just even like consuming that hot liquid. It even just bypasses the GI tract, goes straight into the bloodstream. So really, really effective. And then just looking at your products. So again, look at using really low toxin, just clean, minimalist type of skincare routines. I am not an expert in this area. I'm not an esthetician, but I may or may not have just seen an esthetician last week. So I'm apparently a pro now. But no, I personally, again, this is not my area of expertise. I have been able to manage keeping great skin because of the work I've done on my internal body as I'm getting older, trying to put more focus on, anti-aging and supporting my skin in other ways. And ultimately what I personally do is I'll ask for recommendations, but then when people give me recommendations, I check them on the EWG app because that'll give a rating for how, the quality of it in terms of the toxic load. So that's a little hack for you guys there. Last thing I would say it's important for us to look at is your stress and your nervous system. If we are dealing with nervous system dysregulation, you're absolutely going to see it in your skin as well. And this is such a common thing. I was just talking about this with our coaching team yesterday where, we'll have some clients that are like, taking all these supplements and doing all these things with their nutrition and they're like freaking out over like, I'm not seeing the change I want to see yet. And we look, we're like, oh, well, you're really, really stressed. We got to go back to the basics here. We got to work on our lifestyle. We got to work on getting your nervous system to calm down. We can't out supplement stress. We can't use food to treat stress. We have to treat stress by lowering stress, by looking at what is the root cause of your nervous system being dysregulated. If we're, really high stress, you're going to ultimately end up with higher cortisol, which is going to drive inflammation, which is going to impair your gut lining, and ultimately drive other hormone imbalances. So we can see it's rarely ever one singular issue. But if we're only looking at targeting our gut and we're not addressing our nervous system, you're going to continue to end up back in the same spot over and over again. So some clues to point back to if your skin issues are coming from a dysregulated nervous system. Notice if you find that your breakouts flare up more during periods of high stress or even during periods of poor sleep. If you don't sleep well and then you break out more, that might mean that your body is reacting to the stress of not getting enough sleep. If you are someone who's just typically prone to like more anxiety, more of like that burnout, that kind of like perfectionist traits, this is something you're particularly going to have to be attentive to. So what I would do here is really focus again on our stress management, breath work, meditation, just really finding what is parasympathetic supporting for you, what helps shift your nervous system into that rest and digest parasympathetic state that is going to be healing for your body. We could look at other supplements and different things to help support that, and that absolutely will be beneficial as well, but we gotta focus on the mind part of this. Ultimately, your skin really is just a reflection of what's happening internally. It is a mirror to your inside. So if you're dealing with skin issues or if you just feel like your skin is not the best it could be, this is your sign to look internally. Ask yourself questions. What is my cycle like? Do I have any PMS? Do I, notice changes in like hair growth or hair loss? Those could point back to maybe some hormone imbalances. How are your bowel movements? What is your stomach like? Do you notice stomach issues and bloating and different kind of like GI type of symptoms? That could point back to gut health needing to be approached. What is your stress load looking like right now? That could point back to needing to work on your nervous system a little bit. How are your cravings? Can you go 4 to 5 hours without eating, or do you start to get hangry and irritable and just anxious, different things like that? That could point back to some blood sugar issues. Looking at like the products you're using, what skin products, what types of supplements could be an issue if you're taking, poor quality of supplements, you might be making your issues worse instead of better. So there's a lot of questions we could ask ourselves, a lot of things we can look at here, but I hope everything we talk about here gives you some kind of ideas and just points you in the right direction of where to look before you start spending money unnecessarily on skincare products and treatments that might be helpful, but might not actually be addressing your root cause.
Yeah. And another thing I want to point out too. So in this episode, you talked gut health and dysbiosis, hormones, blood sugar, inflammation and liver detox, stress and nervous system dysregulation. I mean, that alone, those are 5 big areas that obviously you're probably going to need some help and support. And so the reason I bring this up is because, we talk to people all day, every day. And sometimes people will be like, well, I'm working with a primary care physician, or sometimes people will be like, well, I'm working with my chiropractor, right? And like, there's just such a big variance of support between those areas. A lot of times, unfortunately, not everybody's looking at all of these different things, right? Your gut issues, your hormone issues, your nutrition, your, blood or sugar sensitivity and all these things. I'm like, you need somebody that is able to look at all of these areas. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. Why? Because you're leaving a big piece of the pie out to figure it out on its own, as opposed to if you have somebody that is able to help and support you with all of these areas. That's how you get a more comprehensive understanding of what your body's going through, most importantly, how to best help and support it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, if this is something that you want some help and direction on, you can absolutely reach out to me. The best way to kind of learn a little bit more about coaching is just to shoot me a message on Instagram at Vanessa G Fitness with the word interested. And then I'll be on the lookout for that, and we can chat, see if me and my team can offer you some help, if that might be a good fit, or any resources we can provide you, if we can point you in the right direction. Always happy to help and support however I can. I do always want to preface and caveat with we do have a wait to work with us. At this point in time, as we're recording this episode late May, we're currently filling spots for about late August to get started with us. So if it's something you're interested in doing at all in 2025, you need to reach out as soon as possible so that you can get on our list. But even if it's something where it's not the right fit right now, or we're always happy to provide resources, point you in the right direction, refer you out however we can help. We just want to help and support as much as we can. And what we ask of you is that you help us spread this information to the people who need it. Share this episode with a friend. Share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from learning this information as well, so that we can continue to grow the podcast and reach more people and help more people. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week.
Bye, everybody.